So today is cold and wet and windy in my garden, so I'm taking shelter in the greenhouse. But as these harsher, colder seasons inevitably roll into our gardens, so many garden designs just fade away. And that doesn't have to be the case. If you use hardy, evergreen, tropical style plants, even in the depths of November, December, January, February, your garden can still have height, structure, and something to look at that keeps it really interesting all year round. So many garden designs just fall away in winter, and that doesn't have to be the case. And especially if you're like me and you like to garden in a tropical or exotic style, it can be really depressing when you see all of those true tender tropicals fade away in winter. And if the whole garden drops away to ground level, it's saddening. And that doesn't have to be the case. So what are my tips? Number one, spread evergreens throughout your garden. Use evergreen shrubs for this. Shrubs like Fatsia, Pseudopanax, Grisellenia, even bulk standard laurel. They are all fantastic for providing structure. But when I say spread them around the garden, I mean spread them throughout your garden. All of us are tempted to put the plants, evergreen big plants, to the side of the garden or to the back, like hedgerows. And that shouldn't be the case because there's going to be so much space in winter. If you spread them about with a bit of thought, even in winter, you're going to have depth and a feeling of being in a garden, not just looking down on bare soil. Now, I say use shrubs. That brings me to my second design point. You can use small evergreen trees to provide winter height. Now this year is the first year I've managed to do this in my garden. I've got a large loquat growing on one side of the garden, and I've got laurels and grisellenia growing on the other. I've even got a Pseudopanax that has grown incredibly fast. And they're all up at 5 foot plus, so they're above head height. So even in winter, I feel like I'm walking through my garden and I'm inside of it, rather than looking down on it, which is how it used to be when all of my tender plants died away or I moved them into the greenhouse for winter. Now, design tip number 3 would be, don't just focus on larger shrubs and trees. All summer long, I talk about layers. I plant my tropical style garden to mimic a rainforest, and you can continue that mindset in winter. There are plenty of evergreen, low-growing or ground cover plants. Plants like Euphorbia, which is an evergreen mondo grass. There is a European ginger which has a lily pad-like leaf that remains evergreen, and it grows like a ground cover. You can use even ivy as a ground cover. Oh, and ferns. Some are evergreen and some are semi-evergreen. But what more jungly leaf is there than a fern? By using plants that remain low-growing and mimicking the layers of a rainforest, even through the depths of winter, you're going to have so much more visual interest. Now, design tip number 4, and I'll make this my last one because there's a lot here for you to act on and think about. So number 4 is to use climbers. Now, what climbers are evergreen? Clematis armandii provide winter interest and evergreen structure. There's even one, I think it's Napoleonsis, that shuts down in summer, loses its leaves, doesn't flower, and then does its thing now, November, December. Full blooms, it's beautiful. But by using climbers, you can cover perhaps the side of your shed or a trellis that you might walk under down your garden path, and it's going to provide that height and winter interest. You can even get evergreen honeysuckles. Now, the great thing with so many evergreen plants is because they are evergreen and tough, they've actually evolved to produce flowers at this time of year. So plants that are in the Eriobotrya family, plants like Fatsias and ivies and Pseudopanax, are producing their blooms now in November, December, January, February. So they provide pollen for pollinating insects at this time of year. And once the flowers are pollinated, they're going to produce berries, which is going to bring birds and more wildlife. So your garden's continuing to provide for the local wildlife even in the depths of winter, which is, to be honest, when the wildlife needs the most help. Now, hopefully, this video has just given you some inspiration for using evergreens in your garden. And if you've got any evergreens that you grow, leave them in the comment section below and share it with everyone else. I will add a list of evergreen plants into the description of this video, so go and have a look, and hopefully you'll get inspired. Now feel free to check out my plant and seed shop, where I sell exotic plants and seeds and ship all over the UK and Northern Ireland. Now thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video, where hopefully it's a bit less windy and cold and I can get back out into the garden.